It's new bike day. Well, as good as it gets, new frame set day anyway. What have we got? It's a Yoeleo. So let's have a look. So here it is out of the packaging. Not going to do an unbox because most Chinese products are packed pretty well these days anyhow. So this is the new Yoeleo R11 super lightweight hill climbing frame set. The frame is 850 grams, the fork is 390 grams. This frame set is a 56, a little bit bigger, slightly heavier because it's my size. The frame set comes as a package with seat post and handlebar and stem integrated of your size, the size that you want. Now this R11 frame set is $1,215 US, which includes the integrated handlebar. It's not the cheaper end of the frame set market, but remember it is a Yoeleo. Yoeleo have been around for a long time. It's a well-known Chinese brand for reliability and has a 3-year warranty. Now I've had over probably the last 8 years, I've had a lot of Yoeleo frames. I've ridden a lot of Yoeleo frames ever since almost their first one, and I've never had a problem. A few little niggly issues with building them, but nothing super major. And if you look on the internet, on YouTube and everywhere, on forums, you'll see Yoeleo have a really good reputation for reliability. Let's get the scissors and open it up and have a look. Also come with bits. So it comes with some more nuts and bolts and some spare hangers, and they drop out for the rear. Spare drop out, seat post plunge bolt, headset spacers, aero shaped ones of course, front through axle, headset, compression plug, and we've got some extra bits here for the Garmin mount or computer mount from the front of the handlebar. So it comes with a compression plug with Yoeleo written on top. And 2 bearings, compression ring, and the bottom fork ring. Now with these bearings, there's different colour. One's red, one's black, and that's because they're different sizes. They're the same size this way, exactly the same, but when you look at them this way, this one is bigger than that one, just by 1 millimetre. There's no reason why. This one goes on the bottom and this one goes on the top. Headset spacers, they're different thicknesses. These ones come apart. I'll just briefly show you with the headset. So we've got the split ring on the bottom of the fork there, and the black bearing first, that's a smaller bearing. We won't use any lubricants at this stage, just putting it together. Then of course the top bearing and the beveled edge faces down, beveled edge down, and that should fit nicely in there. Sometimes they're a little bit tight, so just pull that out, press it in with your thumbs like that, it clicks in. Should be a nice fit, not tight, not loose. And you put this one here, beveled edge down, that. Then there's this one, goes next, and then your spacers, whichever spacers you want to use. I'll just put one on there, that. And the top spacer, this one here with that funny flange shape sticking out the front, like that, and that faces forward. Now with your handlebar, there's a spacer inside, and that spacer has a split in it, and so you line that split up with the split at the back of the stem there. It's easier sometimes just to put the shim on first, so split toward the rear, fairly tight fit. So make sure you've got the split facing toward the rear, because the split in the stem faces toward the rear, and the black line there, painted edge upwards, otherwise you'll have a silver bit up the top. And then make sure those prongs fit in the 2 holes in the stem there. just like that. Let's have a look at the other packet of spare parts. Seat rail upper clamp. This is the largest size one for oversized carbon, titanium or aluminium railed seat. The normal size clamp is in the seat post already. Seat post booty, seat post plunger clamp and spare rear derailleur hanger. And rear derailleur grommets, one for mechanical cable and the other for the electronic wire. Put that soft booty on your seat post. Put the seat post in the frame first and then put in the seat post plunger clamp. 4mm Allen key, and then you can put the booty down on top. One thing you notice is how thin these stays are. That's relatively thin, thinner sort of seat post, average sort of top tube which tapers a bit thicker, but then you've got this massive head tube, really big head tube here, 1.25 inches. That's so you can get all your internal cables through into there and down your diagonal tube. And this tube here is actually quite big as well. It doesn't look too big side on, but when you look at it this way, it's quite a fat tube. And goes down in your bottom bracket, and even that is quite chunky. So even though it's a light frame, it's also beefed up in your head area and the down tube and the bottom bracket area here for strength, for stiffness. So all your cabling, your internal cabling coming through your handlebar, going through down here. So I'm going to lift this off and look underneath. And looking down, the large cutouts on this headset pieces will allow all 4 cables, that's 2 mechanical gear and 2 hydraulic brake cables, to go through into the frame. Of course, it's even easier when you're using electronic gear wiring. So your hydraulic line for your front brake goes through here, and then it comes out here. Now for your lever, which goes on there, your hydraulic line will go through here into that hole there. It will go through here and come out this one here. If you're using Shimano Di2, then there's the hole there for your wire from your junction box. Having a look at the rear derailleur hanger, it's held in with a 2mm Allen key, and the hanger is in 2 parts. And they're both recessed into the carbon dropout. You've got the 2 sides, one in there, one in there, and a screw in there. The R11 takes up to 32C tyre. This is a 28mm, and you can see plenty of room in there and in there. And front fork, plenty of room there as well. The bottom bracket is BB86, so you'll need one of these. So it's a press in. Now pretty much all new frame sets you get come with a set of through axles, and there's a reason why the frame comes with through axles and not with the wheel set. That's because sometimes the dropouts, particularly on the rear, are different. There's slightly different length in the depth of the hanger and the front may be different as well. Usually the fronts are not, but sometimes they are. So be wary. For instance, here's the one from this frame for the rear, and here's another one from the rear, exactly the same sizing, but it isn't the same sizing. The length, as you can see, is shorter on this one, and the thread is different as well. The thread's finer on that one. So with the R11 frame, it's a coarser thread on the dropout, and it's slightly longer. So be wary of that. Always use the through axles that come with the frame. Same with the front fork. This is the R11 through axle for that front fork, and here's another one from a different frame. They're the same length exactly, but the threads are different. So again, getting the one that doesn't belong, and it won't screw in because the thread pitch is different. Use the one that comes with the Yoeleo R11 and no problem. Something to have a look at is under the bottom bracket. In days previously, we had our cables on the outside, usually the gear cables, and they'd run on a plastic runner or somehow through the frame with a little cap on top. Either way, it wasn't as clean as this. Here all you've got is two little holes there. So we've got fully integrated cables now, so there's no reason to have anything on the outside for your cables. However, you see there's two holes drilled here. They're drainage or ventilation holes. Drainage if you get a lot of water in your frame, and believe me, we had a rider who ended up with a cup full of water when he pulled his bottom bracket out. Yep, that's true. So you can definitely get accumulation of water down through your seat tube if it's not sealed properly, or any other places as well, but that's usually the common place. However, Yoeleo have got two holes here. This one here in particular, you've got to remember, if you drill a hole, don't just drill it anywhere in your bottom bracket. When your bike is standing up, it's got to be at the lowest point. Otherwise, there's no point having a hole like up here with this first one is. Otherwise, the water won't fall out. You put your bike down, you need to have the hole at the lowest point. So Yoeleo have done the right thing and drilled a hole here, small ventilation or drainage hole right at the bottom point. Now, just talking about decals, they're under the clear coat, and you've got one each side, the Yoeleo, nice silver, and of course you've got R11 on that stay and R11 written on that stay either side. On the forks, you've got nothing at all. So very, very simple decal system. Very nice though. Now, a lot of modern frame sets come with a set of clear, thick stickers, and we know what they're for. They're for putting on your frame in case of any damage to your paintwork. For instance, in the old days we used to have cables on the outside, and they'd rub on here and they'd scratch your paintwork. So we don't need them now because we've got internal cables up here. However, there's one place that's notorious for chipping paint, and that's down here on your chainstay. When you go over a bump and boom, 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 your chain flaps up and down and hits and chips or scratches on your chainstay on the paintwork. However, saying that, let's have a look at this bike here. This is my Yoeleo R12, and I've done about 9,000 kilometers on it through all sorts of terrain. Most of the rides we go on are bumpy. And let's have a close look at this rear stay here. This chainstay is virtually scratch free and definitely no chips. So up to you whether you're going to use a chainstay protector or not on your chainstay. If you do have a problem in that area, it might be an idea to check the length of your chain. If the length is too long, that'll enable your derailleur to move a bit more, the spring's not as tight, and the chain will flap up and down more. So make sure that your chain is not too long, otherwise it's going to flap up and down. Too short, of course, is no good either. You've got to have the ideal length. So that's just one thing to check. With your front derailleur, the cable is going to come out through this little plug to your front derailleur there. If you're using Di2, then you'll notice a little hole here. That's where your wire is going to come out for your front derailleur. Now, if you are using mechanical, you're obviously not going to use this hole, so it might be a good idea to silicone it or put some sort of little plug in there. Otherwise, you might end up with some water through there as well. As regards to the weight, just the frame alone, you can feel like that's very light. It's lighter than the R12. With the two bolts here, which are made of steel, your rear hanger and its bolt and the front hanger and the two bolts, nevertheless, that is light. That's definitely lighter than the R12 frame. Not the absolute lightest frame I've felt, but nevertheless, that would be probably just teetering under 1,000 gram, thereabouts. Maybe just on 1,000 gram. I wouldn't mind betting that's about a kilo. That's pretty light. Like I said, I felt lighter, but nevertheless, this is probably a bit stronger. Got that gigantic head tube, big tube here as well. Very nice. The fork, not necessarily lighter. I don't think you can really lighten the fork too much. No, I reckon it's about the same. About the same as the R12 fork. Having a look at the head tube, There is plenty of carbon fibre around there, plenty strong enough, both the top and the bottom there. Now, just as a matter of interest, we'll measure it. So that's 3.36, so just over 3 millimeters in thickness. In the headset area, better to have it a little bit more beefed up for safety reasons. You wouldn't want it to be too thin and light, you end up cracking it, especially if you're a heavier rider and it's very thin here, that would be no good at all. So safety factor definitely built in with this Yoeleo frame. With the headset bearings, of course, you've got one black and one orange colour, the orange one being the slightly thicker one by about 1 millimeter. So that is your top bearing and the small one is your bottom bearing. So let's see the fitting. A small one for the bottom. It doesn't just fit in loosely, which is good. So it clicks in, you have to push it in. And it's not loose, so that's good. Top one, same thing, it's not going in. You have to click it in, and it's not loose. So good fittings, good fittings. You don't want them to be loose in your headset area, that's no good. You'll always have a loose headset otherwise, so that's good. Make sure your bearings fit in nice and tight. Bearing on the fork, well, it's actually not bearing on the fork because you've got this bottom race, and you can see there's a split there, split in this ring. This is aluminium, hardened aluminium, so that fits on there. Usually put the split at the back, doesn't really matter where, and that pushes on nicely. And then your bottom bearing sits on top of that little race there. That's fine, that's really, really good. So these headsets are made in mass production, of course, in another factory to certain standards, and all frame manufacturers would have to go and make their frames and forks to those standards, and that way all these pieces fit in. Because if you see on the bottom of this headset piece here that I just put on, there's numbers on there. So exact sizes. In fact, this one says 39.8. So this is exactly 39.8 millimeters there for your fork steerer. Having a look at the fork crown race seating, very smooth, very nicely done. And looking at the bottom bracket shell, the outer face, a little bit rough looking. There's a bit of blue undercoat paint, I would say that's what that is. So it's nevertheless quite flat and round, just looking rough. Inside of the shell, where the bottom bracket cup fits in, quite smooth, well made, and the other side is quite good as well. And the exterior thickness of the shell, 3.95 millimeter, quite sufficiently thick. You're not going to break that in a hurry. Just as a matter of interest, here's 3 different generations of road frame sets that I've ridden from Yoeleo over the past years. First of all, remember the R6, this one here. It was sort of a road come triathlon frame set, had the S-bend here in the seat tube so that you can bring the rear wheel in, had an aerofoil shaped tube here and seat post, and had a screw-in BSA bottom bracket, very nice. Bulletproof, very stiff, very strong frame, but slightly on the heavy side. Then come the R12, that's the one I'm riding now, and it's an aero frame, pretty much the same as that, slightly different shaped tubing. Very nice. It is lighter than that, even though it's made from the same carbon fibre. And it has integrated cables, so all your cables go through your handlebar, down through your head tube and through your frame. Not a cable to be seen, except of course if you've got mechanical at the back here going to your rear derailleur. I'm still riding a very nice frame set. Now we've got a different one here. It's not an aerodynamic frame, it's the R11, which is a hill climbing super light frame set. So not aerodynamic, but nevertheless all the cables are still integrated. So they've got a big fat head tube, all your cables go through here, through your frame, and the only cable again, if you've got mechanical, is at the back. Now the difference is these two have got the BB86 bottom bracket, this one has the old English screw-in bottom bracket. So we're yet to ride this one. This is one we're going to build up. We'll see how it goes. So there you go, there's 3 different generations of Yoeleo frame sets. The rear gear cable, whether electronic or mechanical, comes out of here at the back, just inside the lug there, like that, and goes to the back there, so it's out of the way. Not like some of the earlier frames where the gear cable come out the side here, and would quite often, if you had a size 45 or bigger shoe, sometimes your heel would clip that cable coming out. So at the back here is a much better option. Using the endoscope now, let's have a look inside this R11 frame. Through the bottom bracket, let's take a peekaboo. First of all, down the right hand rear stay, and there's the cable guide sheath. We'll just pull that back out a bit so we can get the camera in. It's difficult in the rear stay to get the camera in because it's a confined space, so excuse the shakiness, but we'll get a view if we can. Look, That's looking very good. Very nice, quite smooth. Very smooth for a rear stay. Certainly looks very nice, well compacted and pressed together. Let's see how far we can push the camera down the stay, because as the stay goes further toward the dropout, of course, it gets skinnier and skinnier. Very tight space. Don't think we can go much further than that. All looks very, very good, all the way down to the end. Excellent. What more can you say here? Now let's go through the other side of the bottom bracket to the left-hand rear stay. Of course, we've got the hydraulic rear line going down this stay, so that's the cable guide for it. We'll leave that in, we won't touch that. And there's the plug, the hole with the plug in it. Very well made, a little bit of reinforcing carbon there. Again, very smooth, unusually smooth for rear stays. I don't think I've seen anything like this before. Excellent. Let's try the seat tube. A little bit of paint there, to be expected at the top. Scratches and things like that. Very light though. Bit of a change in the carbon layup here all of a sudden. Very nice inside, what we can see, a bit foggy. Let's see if we can go a bit further down. Try and twist the camera around to get a view of the whole tube. That's a bit of, looks like leftover bit of bladder on the side there. That's no big deal, teeny small bit. And there's the riv nuts for the bottle cage nuts. See if we can get, there we go, that's a nice view. Very clean, very nicely done there. Can't get over the walls of this tube either, very smooth. Amazing. Okay, let's go somewhere else. Through the head tube opening up the top and sideways 90 degrees into the top tube. Gosh, we're looking good here too. Little marks. No, very shy. I don't think there's anything to worry about. Very smooth again. Well, as the saying goes, nothing to see here, folks, so we might as well get out of here. Let's try through the bottom of the head tube now and into the down tube. That's the big one where all your cables come through. See if we can find something here. Got to find something. It's getting a bit boring. Again, smooth walls, no folds, no bits coming off. Oh, there we go. That's unbelievably smooth. It's almost as good as the outside. One of the cable guides. Bottle cage riv nuts on the down tube. They're clean as well. Well made. Excellent. Look at that. Both of them. Even the tubing around the riv nuts and right next to it. We can turn the camera a bit. It's very smooth. Yep. Now, just as a matter of interest, Yoeleo did send me a picture of one of their internal bladders for their frames. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to show you this or not, but anyhow, here it is, because really it's to their credit. This R11 frame is excellent. Let's check out the fork steerer then. Looking very good. Looking excellent. Same story. Yep. Way more than passable. Excellent. How about the seat post? Let's have a look in here. Quite a few marks in there, but nothing major. The carbon work itself looks fine. Handlebars, they're all carbon fibre, so we'll try them as well. Now, it's good to look in these handlebars because Yoeleo have changed the interior of the handlebar, which is where we're looking, to accommodate for easier cabling. That means it's slipperier inside or smoother inside the carbon work, so that when you slide cables and housings through, that it won't grab on any bits of carbon or anything sticking out. And it certainly looks clean from here. Well, there's 4 cabling holes to poke through, so one more. Let's have a look. Looks all fine, looks very good, excellent. So even their components are really well done. Whatever process they're using to mould their carbon is certainly working. even in the end of the carbon handlebar. Let's have a look. Yep, there's a few little wrinkly bits there, not actually carbon wrinkles, but maybe it's from going around the corner or something. I'll try and get closer with the camera, and I would say it's about the only example I've found in the whole frame and components of wrinkling. It looks like wrinkling to me. May not be. Looks like some wrinkling. It's final interior layer there has come away, but the rest of it is just wonderful, excellent, very well done. Let's lastly have a look inside the stem, because after all you may have all 4 mechanical cables coming out like I am. Smooth as, that's as good inside as outside, almost excellent. Well, as a conclusion, I must say that's the best frame set and components I've ever looked from the inside out. What do you think? I'm no expert, but if you can see something I haven't seen, let us know in the comments. In fact, if you go to Yoeleo on YouTube, you'll find a video of them cutting up the new version of the H9 integrated bar and stem, and they compare it to the previous version of their integrated bar and stem, and you can certainly see the difference. And that's it for unboxing the Yoeleo R11 frame set. It looks really good and it checks out excellent. In the next video we'll be putting it together. In fact, I can show you, already done that. Here's a sneak preview. There it is, all assembled and ready to go. The wheels Yoeleo intend for this bike are not here yet, but when they arrive I'll whack them on, and they're super light as well, so it'll make the whole bike even lighter. So in the next video, assembling the bike, but with emphasis on the hard bits like the integrated cabling and all that sort of thing, and test riding. See you there.